Hi, hi. Here's something for you. It's funny because, like, oh, no, when I was in I'm still taking my business analysis course, by the way. It's just like I haven't been working, so I haven't been considering these things. But I really think I might do a series where I actually explain it, just for the fuck of it. So, shoulda, coulda, woulda. We were having a one of those analysis spots and concepts, and we were discussing a certain, I think it's Moscow. It's the Moscow style of analysis. What are the things that we must do? What are the things that we should do? What are the things that we could do? And what are the things that we would want to do? So I looked at the instructor and it was like, coulda, shoulda, woulda. And he was like, what? And I go like, oh, it's just reminded me of this coulda, shoulda, woulda we used to say as kids, because most of the time once something's already done and after the results are over, normally we're able to look at what happened and assess them in a certain kind of way. Oh, we should have done this. Oh, we could have done this differently. Oh, I would have done this if it was me, and I would have tried to do this. And so so he looked at me and goes like, "What are you talking about?" And I responded with, "If we are the Moscow analysis, seemed to me like we take any project that we have and imagine it 1 month from now or 6 months from now when it's done. And if we imagine it to have failed, then that analysis basically, because what could we have done? What should we have done? What we must have been doing wrong, and what would we have done differently or something? Like this just if you look at the project as a failure and go like, we could have done this, and then somebody would look at you and be like, yeah, coulda, shoulda, woulda, because like we could have done something differently. We could have changed the way we look at things. We could have tried a different approach. All of these, we could have thought of them, but we didn't. But what if we think about them now before it actually like happened? What if we think of our failures? And that got me thinking about, well, if I were to fail as the platform that I'm doing, what are the things I could have done differently, and what are the things I should have done differently? And what are the things that I would do differently right now? I don't think these kinds of things are for a startup or for something that's completely creative. I'm going to go and quote Einstein on this. Two heads are better than one. So Einstein would say, none of us is as smart as all of us. And so, what would somebody do differently? If I were to lay down my plan right now in front of you, I'm doing these YouTube videos specifically so I can build rapport with the people that I want to target in the future, to understand what it takes to create a community, to understand what it takes to create some form of following, and to explore my model of the world with like minded people so that we'll be able to build it. That's basically it. Number two, I'm learning how to program and I'm trying to gain experience in programming and I'm doing all these kinds of stuff. So for me, that's also something that I'm doing that is positive and towards something. And as I proceed, I am as well exercising, reading, writing in order for me to understand different things, talking to people in order to see different perspectives. I have my dad, which I try to meet at least twice a week in order for me to be able to engage with directly. I'm exploring different cultures in order to understand the world from a different angle. Hopefully, the plan with that is to see how is to open my mind so that if something goes anywhere, I'll always have different alternatives. Because like once you know that something exists, you don't really have to dive into it, but you can use the fact that it existed beyond your realm of understanding for you to kind of like like nothing is ever narrowed down anymore. Once you understand there's more stuff outside. And so I'm also learning music as music theory and like using the guitar to practice it. as of recently, I've been like reading a lot more, or at least like being a lot more intentional when it comes to my reading. I also write, if this was to fail, the only thing I would have done differently, the way I see it, and this is probably an arrogant thing to say, but maybe if I say it out loud right now, other things will pop up. It'll probably be because I didn't listen to it when it told me it needed something else. My company, the startup, the platform, I think it will fail when I started it, when it's already been established. And as we're moving forward, I think it will fail when I realize I'm too stubborn to listen to what it demands of me. So here's an article I just wrote, and I called it manifesting. Naturally, it's on Medium, by the way. Nobody cares. All right, clapping tar. Okay. So in the article, I talk about life in general, about how we, as mammals, species, all that, we're just literally a part of life. We're not really life. We are the enablers of the transition of life. We are the ones that that allow the consistency of life. George Carlin, I love that dude. Passed away, I think, 2009. He talked about something. He goes like, uh, he says the Earth is going to be fine. It's humanity that's fucked. And I think what he meant by that is because we are not really, we are an expression of life, which is this planet. Individually, we get to think on our own and explore on our own, but we are an expression of life. If I were to look at my own self, the best I could do is listen anytime I'm in charge and listen to somebody else anytime they're in charge. If I were to follow my own lead, then what I have to do is trust in myself, listen to myself, and understand what I'm trying to do every step of the way. If I were to follow somebody else's lead, I would have to do exactly the same. I'd have to trust, I'd have to follow, I'd have to understand, I'd have to like know the intentions, I'd have to do all that stuff. The coulda, shoulda, woulda part is always when we're lacking in our own attention. Now, I'd like to believe that I'm actually putting all my attention on this. But the reality is, I'm finding it a transition right now from moving from an unanchored position to an anchored position. And as I'm transitioning, I'm learning a lot more about things and I'm processing things differently. And there's a certain confidence level that's built in me right now that I'm enjoying and I'm trying to apply and I'm trying to like, uh, I, I don't want to say build on top, evolve, evolve to something else. And the coulda, shoulda, woulda part, I think, struck me because my self assessment of myself is happening, I think, between daily to weekly. But if I were to look at my assessment over the past 3 months or over the past 6 months as a whole, I think I've been scared to do that. And a part of it is kind of like owning to my own self, owning to my own responsibility, owning to my own actions. And it's Dostoevsky that says that. He goes like, we're not only responsible for our own actions, we're also responsible for everyone else's actions. And a big part of me feels that to incur a strong trust in what I'm doing so that it doesn't actually fail or collapse. The coulda, shoulda, woulda part should be injected in my thought process. Maybe more often, maybe less often than I'm doing it. Because ideally, if I allow myself to flow for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks doing something, and then I come back to it, then my assessment of the situation is after it's done, it has done enough work or it has created enough things, because what I'm working on is not something small that can be done in 5 minutes. It's something that I've been spending a year plus doing and over 3 years preparing for. And once I actually start it, and I think maybe that's kind of like a fear of mine, because once I start it, it's a completely different approach, because now I'm listening to myself on how I want to build it and how I want to build the platform. But once the platform is built, I'm no longer listening to myself. I'm listening to the platform. I'm listening to the people on the platform. I'm listening to the clients of the platform. I'm listening to the software of the platform. All of these, my job would no longer be to lead. My job would be to support. And my job would be to allow this life that I'm breathing into this concept that I want to, that I'm building, to breathe proper life into this concept, or the concept that I already breathed life into. I already breathed life into the concept that I'm talking about. But now it's going to start walking on its own. Then I'm no longer the person that actually like says anything. So the only way this could fail is if I don't really listen and I don't really understand what I'm doing. And if anything, I think what I'm doing right now is strengthening my skills when it comes to understanding, in general, my surroundings. And part of this interaction between me and you guys is actually one of the strengths that I've learned over the past 3 months. Naturally, it was definitely easier for me to transition from like doing something to not to doing something else back then. But mainly because my mindset was a lot narrower towards what needs to be done. But now it's expanded to a point where the transition is longer, but that's only the price to pay for you evolving. Now, because I still don't have the proper experience to handle these transitions fast. But soon enough, I'll be able to handle any transition I want at any point in time. And my schedule will be filled. I don't have to feel guilty about it. And I'll be able to kind of like finalize things and close loops and make decisions a lot smoother, faster, simpler, and efficiently and effectively. And all my time would no longer be me thinking, would be me just listening to whatever the world needs of me, my platform needs from me. And that's how a startup actually is done. So, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Yes, maybe a daily reflection, a weekly reflection, and a monthly reflection. And they need to be kind of labeled like this here, this here, this here. I'll think of a way to do it. But why the fuck not, man? I like it. I'm gonna write down some notes after this. Bye.